Theo, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Brent. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, nice to see you again. You and I were introduced through the former CMO, Chief Marketing Officer of Brightcove, who I met at last year's Inbound conference. And we had a great conversation about the role of video. We know it is the coming channel, higher levels of engagement, higher levels of tracking in the buyer journey, and the strategy that Brightcove has for that. And as you came into your role, really as a demand gen expert and leader at Brightcove, we were introduced as somebody who could probably provide value to our audience, thinking about this topic of how do you use video content in the buyer journey to drive revenue growth. So would love if you just start by introducing yourself, your role at Brightcove, a little bit on Brightcove, and anything that you want to say about your background that's relevant for the conversation today.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much for the introduction, Brent. So, as you mentioned, my name is Theo Hildyard. I'm the VP of Demand Generation for Brightcove. Brightcove is a streaming platform, a video streaming platform. Just a little bit about Brightcove, just to tee things up. Our mission is to deliver the highest quality, scalable, secure streaming technology for any company, brand, or creator to own their own digital future. We combine complete technology solutions with a team of experts to lead media and enterprise customers through every stage of their video journey. And just to give you a little bit more context on who those media and enterprise customers might be, we help media companies expand their reach, deepen engagement with their audience, and fully monetize their content through a range of monetization options like ads, subscription, transaction. But we also help enterprises attract new audiences, sell more products, and engage and motivate employees through the use of video. To give you an idea of some of our customers, we recently became the official streaming partner for a new OTT streaming service called In the Black Network. We are in partnership with the NHL, the National Hockey League, to power their online streaming content across multiple digital platforms. And we're in partnership with Yahoo to power its worldwide streaming capabilities as its exclusive streaming technology partner. So a little bit there
Excellent.
about me and Brightcove.
Yeah, excellent. And of course, a lot of folks will know you in the market as sort of the leader in video content delivery. And just, to tee up sort of the first topic we were going to talk about, knowing that, video content is sort of in some ways, the most untapped. We know that people pay attention to it, engages them. Love to hear how you, as a leader in the market, are thinking about video content just fitting into a demand generation strategy, capturing
Yeah,
eyeballs, bringing people to your website, converting folks.
exactly. This is a really interesting question for me personally because Brightcove is it's sometimes more well known for the service it provides to the media outlets that I was talking about, but we also have a large enterprise customer base. These are people like Home Depot and Ford and so on. They're using video to actually sell more stuff fundamentally. So they're using video in their marketing activities. So that's something we sell. But interestingly, because of my role in Brightcove, I am the VP of Demand Gen for Brightcove. I am customer zero. I am actually adopting the same approaches and the same technologies as many of our customers are rather. So I am effectively tasked with growing revenue for Brightcove as a video streaming company, as a video streaming company that sells to enterprises, to marketers, as well as to media. And I need to basically drink our own champagne. That's part of my role. So the starting point for me personally on this journey is to realize and fully embrace the idea that video is simply the most effective content marketing medium that I have available to me. I believe that video is quicker and easier to consume than print, and people retain more of the information. So you're getting a far more instant hit and more bang from your buck through content marketing through video than through some of the other mediums that we have available to us. So it's pretty essential to my content marketing strategy. And so then I turn around and I say, well, okay, I believe in video. I believe in the power of video and its ability to capture attention and for people to retain the knowledge. But now I need to build video into my demand gen strategy. Like, what am I going to do? Where am I going to start? How am I going to even begin to think about that? The way we have thought about it at Brightcove is actually no different to any content marketing strategy, if I'm honest with you. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to understand the content that we need at the top of the funnel, the middle of the funnel, and the bottom of the funnel. And then we're going to
Yep,
ask
nice.
ourselves key questions about whether video is a good substitute for some of the content that we previously had in each of those stages. So to give you an example of that, for the top of funnel, we would want video that is fundamentally sizzle video orientated. It doesn't necessarily go too deep into our products or our features. It's very short, 90 seconds, maybe less, sometimes even 15 seconds, but really short, certainly no more than 3 minutes. And the whole purpose of the top of funnel video content is basically to elicit some kind of emotion from the viewer, to build some kind of rapport with the viewer, and essentially to build brand awareness. So we're not talking about complicated, deep product videos at this stage. We're just talking about sizzle reels. We're talking about like something that's analogous to a TV commercial. And then
Right.
that,
We got to hook them first.
exactly
And
right,
that's your top
exactly
of the
right.
funnel sizzle reel. Yep.
Exactly right. And that replaces, it might replace a banner on our website, for example, or it might replace a static image in an email, or it might replace a static image in an organic social media feed. But it's super short, super sizzle reel orientated, and basically building brand awareness. And those are the sorts of things that, to be fair, video marketers have been doing with video for a long time. There was a long time when sort of a demand gen expert and their use of video would have been the 30-second explainer video or the 120-second explainer video, and that would have been it. That would have been their video content marketing strategy, and they would have stopped there. Totally understand that. But I guess the next layer of the sort of demand gen video onion is to peel that back a tiny bit further and look at what you might need in mid funnel. Now, mid funnel, content marketers would typically have product orientated information. They would have customer testimonials. They would have data sheets, feeds and speeds, basically. And it's no different with video. You're just replacing that sort of content objective, if you like, of giving people a bit more information about your product, giving people a bit more information about your happy customers. You're just replacing it from being a one-page data sheet or a customer case study to being fundamentally the same thing, but in video format.
Now,
So,
just to jump in there, because as we
sure.
think with folks about content strategy, right? Your sizzle reel is engage them. You want to draw them in. What I love about what you just said about that middle of the funnel, we always think of good middle of the funnel as self-solutioning. It's getting people thinking about your product. How would they put it to use? It's getting them to identify with other customers, looking at a spec sheet and how does that fit in my stack? And what I hear you saying is, now you're making that easier for people to consume because they don't have to read anything, right?
Yeah.
They just click on understanding how the product solves a problem or click on customer who used the video to drive demand gen and they can listen. Probably you can have some closed captioning so they can listen and read, and they're going to engage with more and, as you say, retain more of that knowledge.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Show product looking good, show customers looking happy. Also show your own internal experts as well, demonstrating their own expertise and essentially what is your company's thought leadership position on certain topics. So in the middle of the funnel, yeah, show good product, show happy customers, and show experts basically leading, having an opinion on important topics, then in topics that are certainly going to be important for your target audience.
Yep.
um, we sort of debate this a lot at this mid-funnel stage. We debate this a lot here at Brightcove about how techie and how nerdy we want to get at this stage. Do you want to focus on outcomes and business value, or do you want to focus on the real deep technology benefits, if you like, the feeds and speeds of your product? And that is a really hard problem to solve. And I've got to admit, I haven't got a single answer for that right here, right now. It really does depend on the circumstance and depend on the company, and it depends on the audience. So you kind of need to do both. But that idea that you really need to demonstrate what your product is and what it does and why it does it well is equally important, as you need to place the value that your product can deliver in the mind of the audience that's watching it so they can make the connection to it, to their problem. And I find those two things are they compete with each other, but they're both needed, unfortunately, for content marketers, because it's not an easy balance to try and strike.
Yep. Awesome. Now take us to the bottom of the funnel and where we're really trying to drive conversion behavior,
Yeah.
either to a meeting or, might be somebody who's in the process with you. Can we drive them closer down the funnel?
Yeah, we tend to look for third-party validation when we're at the bottom of the funnel. So Brightcove is, I'm lucky because Brightcove is a leader in its field. Therefore, there are plenty of sources out there, mainly analysts, but there are plenty of third-party sources out there that would lend credibility to Brightcove. So at the bottom of the funnel, I would certainly look for third-party validation from the large analysts. Have them ideally talking about how they view the industry and how they view the competitive landscape with the industry and how they view Brightcove within that. Now that often takes the form of an analyst report, Gartner MQ or a Forrester Wave or some other similar type or some similar type piece of research. That can be accompanied though by a teaser video. That can be accompanied by a sort of like a sort of a 2-minute explainer summary from the analysts themselves. So often this bottom of the funnel third-party validation is by necessity a dense written piece, but that shouldn't stop marketers thinking about how they could layer on, even with the help of the analyst, a sort of sizzle exec summary version of that research.
And how do you think about, customer stories where you start to envision yourself? That's obviously middle of the funnel, but
Mm.
a lot of companies think about that bottom of the funnel as well, right? More targeted people like you that we've had success with. Curious, so third-party validation makes a ton of sense. Analysts, how do you think about customer stories or case studies at the bottom of the funnel, and can those be turned? How can those be most easily turned into video?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, that's a very good point. I mean, the sort of customer video testimonial can play a part, middle or bottom. I totally see that. We tend to slot it into the middle, but I mean, it could easily apply to the bottom. We 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 have happy customers, which is great.
Hmm.
One of the best ways that an organization, one of the best ways a B2B marketer can engage with a happy customer is try and get them at their annual conference when they're already on a sort of like it's already a sort of friendly environment. It's got a good positive atmosphere to it. The difficult thing about getting customer video testimonials is actually getting to the customer, pinning them down and getting them in front of a camera. So we often try to do that actually at our in-person annual events. And then, yeah, absolutely, a sort of, whether it's a sort of 2-minute talking head done in a side room or whether it's actually sort of a fireside chat done on stage, getting those types of customer testimonials done, when you're getting 2 for 1 basically, because the actual customer is in the room anyway, is probably the way to go with those.
Yep, great. So love you've just painted for us here how video really, marketers think about top of the funnel, got to engage them, middle of the funnel, got to get them self-solutioning, right? Leaning into how they're going to use you, understanding how it goes in the stick. And then we have to give them kind of deeper social proof to build confidence for the purchase. And video goes throughout all of those. So different depths of content. How do you think about then, the best channels to put
Yeah,
your video content?
yeah, exactly. So we want video to be everywhere because we're a video streaming company. We're a streaming technology platform. And so we want our videos to be absolutely everywhere. And thankfully, a lot of the channels that I use, every day in, day out, are now very video friendly. So to give you an example, on paid social, for us, that's mainly LinkedIn, to be fair, but on paid social, we can absolutely layer in a ton of video there, sort of, the sort of more to the 15-second sort of teaser video type video that links through to something a bit more substantial. But paid social, very easy to layer video in there. Organic social, obviously very easy to layer video in there. We would also put video in emails. That's relatively simple nowadays. And we would also use content syndicators to push out our video as well. Now, content syndication is an interesting one because it doesn't often get a good rep with B2B marketers. It's often seen as a sort of volume high volume, high quantity, low quality lead source. But for us, we use content syndication slightly differently. We actually do like to put short teaser videos out through content syndication and have those teaser videos link back to our main properties. Because one of the things that content syndicators do particularly well is give us guaranteed lead volume in target accounts, in named accounts. So if we can get that if we can get that lead volume and those contact details from target accounts and be simultaneously driving traffic to our own properties, our own website, basically, but there are other properties involved, and I'll cover those in a second. We get a 2-for-1 there. So we're actually quite keen on content syndication, but not necessarily print. It's all video. Video in display adverts, of course, that's a thing as well. And last but by no means least, we've started recently experimenting with connected TV advertising as well. So it's a relatively new world in terms of the targeting. And it's something that is more B2C orientated historically than B2B orientated. However, the targeting is, I'm told, it's getting better and better and better. So we can target actual households of people that work at specific companies. So there's an argument to say that CTV is now a targeted channel. And obviously you would put video on CTV because it's by definition TV. So there's a bunch of different channels now which are now super friendly for video. And for us personally, what all of that means, every single one of those channels and all of the video that we would put out over every single one of those channels has one purpose, and that is to click through to our own video landing page, if you like, which actually is it's more than the video landing page, because we sell video streaming platforms to media companies. Think a Netflix style experience where you would arrive at an OTT media streaming channel, and you would have thumbnails, and you would have episodes to watch, and you could search for certain series, and you could like and dislike things. That whole experience that we commonly associate with OTT streaming services, because we sell that, we've actually incorporated that into our marketing efforts as well. So when I say people are drawn to a landing page, I don't mean a web landing page. I mean they're drawn to they're clicking through to a Netflix style experience where they get to where they're able to consume all of our video content and all of our video thought leadership. So we might have a short form content on paid social of our CEO talking about a particularly relevant topic to the industry, but that will click through to a longer form version on our streaming TV channel, which we call Play TV. And so all of the channels basically are designed to pull our audience and pull eyeballs to our own version of Brightcove TV, which is Play TV.
And say more about that. I mean, in our pre-call, you had this really interesting notion of an in-market account. Like, qualified in-market account means they're searching out there, but they've also come to your website, right?
Yeah.
So they're thinking about you specifically. It's a lot more powerful than just searching for a competitor out there. How do you think about, I mean, you just said it, you want to bring them to a web landing page. We want to bring them to the landing page because they can become an own contact. We can start to capture some intent data, maybe to domain information or to buyer information if they fill something out. What on your own website, are you going to see all three levels of that video? Tofu, mofu, bofu, or how do you think about the video experience on your own website once you get them there? Targeted landing page, but where do you go from there?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So first of all, we're absolutely obsessed with owning our own audience data, which is why we have built our own video experience, our own Netflix style experience, where people would go and they would see and consume our content. And we're so obsessed with owning our own audience data, for reasons we'll get into later, that we have built this platform rather than give that platform to YouTube or a third party. So we've built it ourselves on our own technology because we want to own the audience data. And there's a ton that we can get into later on what that means in terms of demand gen, engaging intent, and all of that kind of stuff. But when they arrive at Play TV, what they're presented with is something that literally does look and feel like a Netflix style experience. So it's going to be very, very familiar to people. They will see thought leadership topics organized as, in quotes, a series of, as in a analogous to a TV show. They'll see thought leadership style topics arranged by series. There will be seasons of those shows, and within each season there'll be multiple episodes. And so you can see we're arranging our thought leadership, fundamentally our middle of the funnel thought leadership here, but we're arranging our thought leadership by topics that people can then browse through and engage with and get suggestions on what they want to, what they might want to view next. Now, the actual sort of sizzle reel part of it, the sort of high level part of it, the sort of 15 second and 30-second part of it is still running at the top of the page, in the same way that a streaming TV channel will launch the teaser video when you've landed on the episode. They'll play you a snippet of it. It's exactly the same concept. So we're pulling these eyeballs to Play TV. They're getting a sort of like a front row view, if you like, of all of our thought leadership, but organized in a way that makes it logical for them to sort of navigate through, find the topics that are interested to them, and then get recommendations on what they might want to watch next. It's much easier for them, and it's much more familiar than let's say having videos spread throughout your website, where unless you navigate to that page, you won't see the video. That's not quite what I'm talking about here.
So I just want to call it out for people that are going to read this or listen. I mean, it's a really powerful, intense strategy that you just described. And I'm going to say the three elements I heard, and then I'd love for you just to string it together for people if I got it right. It's like you want to bring everybody to your website, because if you're smart enough to topically organize, right, around themes and episodes and stuff, and you're obsessed with mining that data, you learn very quickly at a domain and an individual buyer level why people are engaged with you.
Yeah.
So obsessed with your data is at the end of a really well thought out, intense
Yeah.
strategy. Could you just start, just walk us through that flow if I captured that correctly?
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So we would, taking it right back to the very beginning, we would have different videos for different stages in the funnel, top, middle, and bottom. We would execute those videos over a range of channels. The reason we're using video is because we believe people are going to engage with it more. It's more eye-catching. They're going to remember it more. They're more likely to click through. So it's more effective as a content marketing vehicle, if you like, in dragging eyeballs back to our own properties. And we're passionate about bringing eyeballs back to our own properties and not sending them somewhere else, because we want to own the first party data. We want to understand which companies are engaging with our content, and what content they're engaging with, and ideally known individuals as well. We want to identify what known individuals are actually engaging with our content. So that's one part of it. Now, also there's a sort of like a stealth tactic in here as well. In pulling people to Play TV, which is our Netflix style thought leadership channel, basically, we're serving two purposes. We're putting our thought leadership in front of people in a way that makes it easy for them to consume. Fine, that's great. That's one benefit. But the whole setup acts as one big, always on product demo for Brightcove, or rather, value demo for Brightcove as well. So not only are we actually making it easy for people to engage with our thought leadership and hopefully harvesting the data and making use of that, we are also demonstrating the power of video content marketing at the same time to marketers. So, hopefully they'll make that connection and they'll see, yes, I get it, totally get it. And then we're on to, okay, so what's Brightcove actually doing with this data? So one of the things that I've always struggled with, and one of the things I've always struggled with as a marketer, is if we are circulating PDFs, or if we are circulating print of some kind, be it a white paper or a data sheet or an ebook, I've always struggled with this idea of, well, are people reading it? Are they engaging with it? And there are technologies that help with that nowadays. I get that. But still, when you're circulating a PDF, you don't really know whether someone has just received the attachment, not really opened it, and then, or maybe they have opened it and they've scanned the contents page but not really engaged with it. Or the flip side to the coin, they may have consumed the entire thing, found it the most outstanding piece of material they've ever seen, and forwarded it to 50 people inside their organization. And you don't necessarily get that feedback all the time with PDFs, so you've not really got a clear sense of who's consuming what. When you make use of video, you actually get extremely granular data on who's consuming what. Well, not necessarily the who, because they would need to be a known user, but you get extremely granular data on what's being consumed. So then, if we are structuring Play TV around channels, which are analogous to topics that have seasons and within them episodes, and people are engaging with that, and they're thematically gravitating towards certain topics, we can see very, very clearly what bits of our thought leadership strategy are landing and where. So we do get very, very good feedback on what's being consumed, and through the use of MarTech, we might be able to identify the company that person is coming from. They may even be known to us because we may have cookied them in the past. So you've got this idea of, on the one hand, even if it's purely anonymous and you cannot tell a thing about who's watching it, it's still valuable to know what content is resonating because you can create more of it. But then the chances are you will be able to identify the company, and you may even be able to identify the individual. And that right there is the power of the first-party data strategy, and why we're so passionate about not giving that over to an organization like YouTube. You could even go one step further than that on the analytics side of things, and layer in things like interactivity, which in its simplest form is things like thumbs up, thumbs down. We see that all the time with our streaming TV services. It's a very, very simple thing. Do you like it? Do you don't like it? Do you not like it? And if you layer that in, you start to really harvest a bunch of really, really valuable intelligence. If it's, as I said, if you know nothing about them, it helps you shape your thought leadership strategy going forward. If you do know the company they're from, and there's a pretty good chance we will know the company they're from, it really helps you with your ABM strategy, because you can really start to understand whether your messaging to certain industries, certain sectors, and even certain companies is successful in getting them to your content and successful in getting them to engage with your content. So it's absolute gold dust when it comes to proving whether your ABM strategy is working or not. And let's face it, an ABM strategy isn't nice to have anymore. I mean, ABM is marketing nowadays. I mean, it's the dominant strategy. So it's a really good proof point for whether your ABM is working or not. And I would also argue that where they're a known user, so someone comes to your site, you can identify what company they're from and they're known to you. You can then do highly personalized follow-up because you know exactly what they're watching and you know exactly what to recommend them next. And that's great. But even if it's anonymous, even if you don't know who they are, but you know what company they're from, that is also gold dust in priming your sales team's outbounding efforts. Because let's face it, like outbounding without any kind of account intelligence, outbounding without any information from your marketing organization on who's visiting your website and why and what they're doing, is basically just like throwing spaghetti at the wall. You've got no idea. Whereas if you can tell the sales organization when they are hunting, when they are prospecting, when they are outbounding, whatever you'd like to call it, that this company is engaged with this content over the course of the last 30 days, and they are typically gravitating towards consuming more of it, that is really, really valuable for the sales teams in their outbounding. And now I feel like we're getting to the real heart of the role of marketing now. And this has got nothing to do with video. The video just happens to be an effective way of developing this intelligence. But now I think we're getting to the real heart of what a modern marketing organization needs to do, because a modern marketing organization certainly needs to identify inbound hand raisers and deliver those to sales as known individuals to follow up on. That's an inbound marketing machine. It has to happen. Absolutely. But for me personally, priming the outbound sales machine with account intelligence that we have harvested through a first-party data strategy that is more effective because it is based on video, is now as much a part of my sort of, if you like, core mission for the company as an inbound lead engine was, 2, 3, 4, 10 years ago.
Yep. Yeah, I love those levels at which it helps, right? We understand what's resonating in terms of themes and topics, what's out there in the market. We can start to get account intelligence, right? So we know who's coming to our website and what they're looking at. that begins an outbound motion. And by the way, we can also match those to named individuals if we've tagged them or they're in
Yeah,
our database
yeah.
or whatever. And so you're sort of cascading through marketing through value through marketing into your sales outbounding motion.
Yeah, absolutely. To be completely honest, identifying known individuals is hard, right? And I mean, the amount of web traffic the amount of traffic we have to our site that is known individuals is small, and I don't want to overplay that. However, it's not zero, but it is small. So yeah, we do end up in a place where the vast majority, I'm going to say the majority of the value of the analytics we harvest from Play TV and our website in general, to be fair, is around anonymous traffic, unknown users, but correlating that with accounts that are interesting to us and correlating that with other sources of, martech and buying intent, and delivering that to the sales team in such a packaged way that it can really help accelerate their prospecting, their hunting.
Nice. So let's end on that because it's always good to, the classic marketing sales divide, which you are
Yep.
solving.
Yep.
What in your experience, because you've been doing this for a while, a lot of people trying to figure it out, what is the like, what do you find is the quickest thing your sales team picks up on from this data you're generating?
The quickest thing they pick up on. So I will say, so having said everything I've just said, I will say an inbound hand raiser who comes and fills out a form that says, "Can I get a demo, please?" is just the most instant hit. Obviously, that is. I mean, that's an immediate shot in the arm, right? So, I'm not going to dismiss that. That is the golden goose. I mean, that's the golden goose. That's the thing that everybody's
Yes.
looking for and hoping for.
What
Um,
about outbound? You go to
yeah, no,
them
I
and
know.
say,
Yeah,
here are accounts that have hit X, Y, and Z, and they're like,
yeah,
great,
yeah.
I'll go after those.
Yeah, no, exactly. I hear you. So, on the outbounding side of things, the way we set up the if you like the outbound machine is to deliver intelligence to it. The intelligence is based on three things. Does that company look like a company we typically see success in? Is that company showing buying intent? So through buying basically intelligence from third parties? Are they showing buying intent? And are they engaged with us? Are they engaged with us in a material way? And it's the engaged with us on our website that people really, really gravitate towards. And even within that, the most significant thing I think that a salesperson would latch onto in terms of engage with us it's definitely not, have they opened an email or have they been to our landing page? We have to filter those out because they're often a tiny bit misleading. We do need a much richer level of engagement. So what they would look to be sure about and be really confident in is that person has been to multiple pages on our website, spent an extended period of time on our website, and then engaged with at least kind of like two or three pieces of premium content. They're not always video. They might be a piece of analyst research, but they've engaged in at least two or three pieces of premium content. So it isn't as if there's one trigger, which is like, okay, great, they have clicked on this page or they've hovered over that widget. That's not it. But the level of engagement needs to be really significant. And the bar actually for what constitutes engagement, and therefore, albeit anonymously, company X is now hot. You should go after them. The bar for what that engagement is keeps ratcheting up and up and up and up and up. I will say so. The salespeople do have very, very high standards for what constitutes engagement, but it isn't necessarily one thing. It's a series of things, but they have to be engaged in our website in a really, really material and meaningful way over an extended period of time and do multiple things.
Awesome. Theo, this has been amazingly rich. Everything from video strategy to first party data to how do you build intent, a buyer intent strategy that your
Mm.
salespeople will actually follow up on. So I greatly appreciate the time today. Look forward to getting this in front of our audience. And thank you.
Yeah, well, no, thank you for the invite, Brent. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and thank you for hearing me out today.